Welcome, and thank you for tuning in to the human training your dog is begging you for. And if you are needing help understanding your dog, there were crazy behaviors, you've come to the right place. I'm Charles Countryman, co-founder of Canine Culture. Laura will not be joining us today. She has the stomach flu or whatever's going around. But as always, we have Wyatt, head of dog evaluations and senior trainer. Good morning, Wyatt.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Oh, it's a great day.
Great day in Dallas traffic.
Oh, yeah.
And as always, we have Julie, lead trainer here at Canine Culture. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
How's your day shaking out?
It's pretty good so far.
Pretty good so far. All right. So if you are joining us because you need help understanding your dog, learn more about creating good behaviors and help eliminate some of those bad ones, that's the point of our podcast. And we appreciate you joining us each week for our podcast. Hopefully you're getting a lot of information out of them. And then as always, if you need help with your dog's behavior, whether it's emotional or behavioral based, reach out to us. We'd love to be part of you and your dog's training journey. Now, today's podcast, guys, we are going to be talking about
Dun, dun, dun.
the eCollar, also known as electric collar or the electronic collar or the training collar by some trainers, and then by some parts of the world, the shock collar. It's all the same damn thing. So we just call it the eCollar. It's a lot faster and easier to say. I hate it when trainers call it the training collar, though.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever called it that.
Why do you think trainers call it a training collar?
I think they want to make it sound like it's the only option you have. It's the end all be all.
Okay.
I think they think that by adding training in there, it makes it okay if they don't use it properly. So that
that's
the owner has no idea.
That's kind of why I think they use training collar, because they're embarrassed by what it is. Mm-hmm. It's an e-collar. Call it what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it's just what it is. You don't call a leash a saddle. You don't make up a new word for that thing.
Right.
I personally believe if a trainer, to me, that's a red flag. If a trainer calls an e-collar, electronic collar, a training collar, then I just think they're embarrassed by that they use it or how they use it, one or the other. Why else use subterfuge?
Yeah.
I mean, really, the only reason we would do that in any realm of anything in our life is because we are embarrassed by what we just did or going to do, or it's
like people that won't show you their kennel area or their training room. It's a red flag, hiding something.
But all of those things are the same thing, the electronic collar. So how the e-collar, Julie, or why, how did it become about? What was the reason it got created?
I believe the original reason it started was for hunting dogs.
Yep.
They were wanting to make sure that the dogs could feel something while they're out there hunting,
a mile
going
away.
Through the brush and doing whatever.
Chasing bears.
Yes. And so it started as a training tool specifically for hunting dogs.
Way back in the day.
And way back then, it was quite painful.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because technology, the transmitters were not what they were.
They had probably, the first one I think of is the sport dog. I feel like they only had about 7 levels. And so when you put it that way, I think the first level was just very harsh.
It's like it slapped on the back of the head right off the bat. Yeah.
Well, and it would hook up to car radios, airplane radios.
Yeah.
They were not very safe back
So,
in the day.
What I want to help people understand is if they're looking at getting an e-collar, what they should look for. If they're looking at using a trainer that uses an e-collar, what they should look for.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the flip side of both those, what they should be avoiding, if they want to go buy their own, or if they want to use a trainer that uses one. And then for, I don't know, probably half people, maybe you don't even have an opinion, then hopefully our conversation today will educate them so they can have at least an educated opinion. Not really necessarily trying to sway people one way or the other. That's not my intent. I just want you to make a good educated decision. So if you are meeting with an e-collar trainer, you ask good probing questions. So now you can decide, is this person going to use the e-collar in a manner and a method that you could agree with?
Well, in the eCollar, in my opinion, it's one of my favorite tools, but I also don't think it should be like a day one tool. It's like your end goal tool, then you get off of everything.
Especially if you're not a experienced owner or even an experienced trainer.
100%.
Yes. Then absolutely. I don't think it should be used on the first day.
So it's funny because it's actually my least favorite tool. And the reason is timing is so important in dog training.
Mm-hmm.
And then when a trainer hands a dog over, back after they've trained it to their owner, the owner's training timing has not improved.
Oh, I meant me personally.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But this is one of the reasons I don't like the eCollar because I know the owner's timing is what screws a good trained dog up. So it makes a good trained dog look like an okay trained dog. Yep. Now you throw an eCollar on there and their timing's off. Now you have an incredibly confused dog.
Yes.
Because the timing was so off that the dog's like, well, I thought that's what you wanted. Why did you just nip me on the neck with a
eCollars should be used like a dog owner should want the eCollar if they know they're going to do specific things that requires their dog to be off leash. So going back to the beginning of this conversation, I think if they know they're going to have a dog that's going to become a hunting dog, or if you're going to be going on a lot of hikes and it's extremely important for your dog to be able to come back if they start running after some rabbit or something, I think that's where those are the owners that are going to put the time because it's going to be almost like a life or death thing for them to make sure their dog actually understands what it means and how to keep up with it. But otherwise, like using the eCollar on a day-to-day basis, when you see trainers
for a walk in the community.
Right. I think when you see that and owners see that, they have this false like imagination of being able to have this super cool off-leash dog without realizing that just the smallest thing could really, like you said, screw up the dog and make things worse ultimately.
Yeah.
So there just goes a lot to the eCollar.
Well, and the months or years of training it led up to get that end result. It's like the problem with you watching YouTube trainers that are using eCollars.
Right.
Is their dogs are perfect and they have this mount on.
They've already,
this
they're
stuff.
showing you a dog that's already trained.
Yeah, the end product. You gotta work.
That took a hell of a long time to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most people, I don't think, understand how much work goes into the eCollar.
That kind of consistency with your dog.
Right.
Yeah. And that's, I guess you're exactly right. My same opinion, Julia's. An eCollar, to me, the great application for it is if I want to go do a bunch of adventures with my dog and potentially and most likely they're off leash at a distance and absolutely unknown potential distractions that could occur. It's for the what if. I can still communicate with my dog. I can override his insane loss of focus over prey drive. He's chasing a squirrel across the highway. It's kind of a life and death scenario, potentially. And we're not going to negotiate then. I need you to focus on me and I need you to right now. Yep. But if I'm out in the community with my dog and my dog's on a leash, I've always thought, what the hell do I need an eCollar for? I have my leash. I communicate through my leash. Why do I need another device to communicate with my dog? It just has always kind of boggled my mind. And we used to train a lot with eCollars, but we really transitioned out. And I think we all agree the couple big reasons, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons, the weakest link is the human. So if your dog gets trained how to communicate with an eCollar and then the owner goes home and doesn't really use the eCollar, we basically wasted the dog's time. We wasted the dog's time teaching him how to communicate with a tool that his mom and dad are never going to do. Yep. So instead of spending hours and hours over several weeks teaching him how to communicate, why don't we just spend those hours advancing his skills in obedience without the eCollar? I think if you don't use an here's my big beef with eCollars. I think most trainers use an eCollar to speed things up.
I don't get it. What do you mean?
Well, a lot of trainers, if they use an eCollar, they put the eCollar on the dog the very first day. Not a week later. I mean, very first day they're using the eCollar while they're training a new command. So they're teaching the dog a new command. And they're also teaching the dog there's a correction if you do it wrong, you don't do it fast enough, don't do it correctly. So the dogs start to become cautious of making mistakes. And I'm not saying that trainer's back there being mean to the dog. It doesn't have to be a high enough frequency
like
that it causes a dog to yelp. That's just plain freaking mean. But if it is an aversive, meaning, it's not a positive, so there's a little bit increased pressure, it's still an aversive. The dog knows if I make a mistake, there's an aversive consequence to my mistake. And I just kind of think that then a dog becomes not scared, but cautious of making mistakes. And now once I have a dog that's a little bit cautious of making a mistake, I go to teach him something new or put him in a little more stressful situation to advance the skill of what we're working on. He might be a little hesitant because he's cautious.
I think what's important to bring up also is the way that some of the trainers will use the eCollar as a correctional tool. Because if you think about how even we used to train with the eCollar, it was still in a correctional manner, but we were doing it in a more quote unquote humane manner in the sense that it was at lower levels.
Yeah.
When you look at our eCollars, it goes from 1 to 100. We're training a dog at level 2 or level 3, and they're still needing to learn how to turn on and off that pressure. That's still a consequence to their behavior and their things. I think where it becomes very complicated for a lot of people who don't really understand the eCollar and who are from the outside looking in is that there are those who will start setting a dog at 45, 55, 65.
And they'll start the dog
And then
there.
it's exactly like what you're saying. The dogs are literally freaked out and scared to do anything because they're about to be in pain over the simplest of mistakes. And so that's really, to me, is the most important distinction for the eCollar usage throughout all like the different trainers and how they use it is the pain. I mean, that's really like essentially the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, I think eCollars, they just, like you said, they're very easy to dip into compulsion training, which has very fast results. They're surface level results.
And they're surface level results.
You'll never fix the anxiety underneath there, but your dog will look like it doesn't want to eat anyone anymore, still scared of new humans in general. But it's too afraid to act out because it's afraid of being punished.
Here's a great way to determine if your dog or a trainer that you're maybe considering that uses an eCollar as part of training. How I look at it, if they have a surface level dog, like you just said, trained on the surface level, looks phenomenal. Does that trainer, when they take their dog, does that person always have the eCollar on their dog? And I can think of so many trainers off the top of my head, 2 franchises that I can think of particularly. Their dogs live with an eCollar. Always, if they're up and they're out and about, they have an eCollar on. That's surface level training. If you can't put your dog on a leash and have a dependable dog, you're really using an enforcer. Even if it wasn't painful, because the dog, you missed a step somewhere in there. The dog should not need an eCollar.
I don't know if I can agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that sometimes you want to make sure that you have a seatbelt, right? That you have something. I know several trainers who have trained their dogs over a period of however long, and they still have the eCollar, and their dog is now 4, 5, 6, but they almost rarely never use it. But they have it in the case that one awkward instant happens, that they, for whatever reason, that the training just went out the window for that specific moment. And so having the eCollar on, having sort of the religious aspect of it, of putting it on and off every day, the dog doesn't think anything of it. So then suddenly, boom.
I can see that. But I just watched a YouTube video of a trainer I know, and he's working with his dog, and really nothing new. It was something him and his dog knew how to do, and I couldn't help but see his remotes in his right hand. I'm thinking, this is something the dog and you know how to do. You're just demonstrating it for the camera to show. I can't remember what it was. It was nothing complicated. And I thought, your dog really, maybe it's just a habit. That's why he's got the eCollar in his hand. But really, if that dog couldn't do it without tapping the button several times and you got to start over, dude.
Problem is, who knows if the guy was actually
That's the thing. That's what I was
eCollars.
And that's where you got to watch is
Yes.
I really, when I see someone, because I agree, you want your dog to be comfortable with eCollar if you're going to use it, so you don't just put it on once in a great while. But I'll pay attention. How often is a person tapping the button?
I mean, the goal would be that you're not supposed to. You're supposed to get to a point where you very rarely use it.
It's just there just in case.
And it's there for that just in case moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a couple of the trainers I can think of, that's not. They literally, I know of one, and I'm not going to say who he is or what company he's with, 2 great trained dogs as long as eCollar's off. If they're not, man, those 2 dogs are batshit crazy. I mean, they're because we call it collar smart. The dog, dogs are smart. They start to associate, hey, when, or generalize in this case, when the collar's on, it's work time. If the collar's off, Saturday night.
Right.
Unless you've trained the dog collar on, collar off, doesn't matter. It's the same good demeanor, good manners that I need from you. Unfortunately, a lot of people that trainer or owner that use collars don't go to that level of, behavior is the same whether the e-collar is on or off. And you can tell when they pull that e-collar out, bow, party.
I would say another big red flag is if their dogs actually like the e-collar.
Yeah.
Or the train tool. If you pull your e-collar out and your dog is excited but does not want to get near you at all, like it knows that means walk, but it does not want you to put it on it, that's a sign.
That's a sign.
Or if they just hide in general.
Or they don't get excited, maybe don't cower, but they don't come running up to you. I know our dogs love it because we typically only use it for hiking and kayaking, like you said, Julia, big off-leash stuff. So if they see us pull an e-collar out, they know they've associated what we're about to do. So they just come running to us. If they hear the beep of it turn on, they come running because they know that that's what we're about to go do. We're going to take a drive and we're going to go hiking. If your dog looks at you and lays its ears down, you gotta do some soul searching and evaluate, how am I using this e-collar and how can we turn it around? Because the tricky thing is it's so easy to abuse.
Oh, yes.
It is.
I mean, so's a prong, so's a freaking leash.
Absolutely.
Every tool we put on our dog is easy to be abused.
I think the hard part, though, about the e-collar and why it's so easily abused is that, like with the prong or any tool that's related to the leash, you're physically adding something to create some sort of aversive. And so, and to some degree, it's easier for owners to go, oh crap, like I'm doing too much.
Right.
I think with an e-collar, it's just so, you don't think about it. I mean, it's like when you press a button and you just don't think about it. And that's how people start to misuse it.
That's why I tell everyone, prong collars, you've got to pretty much, unless you've got a really soft dog, you've got to pretty much try on purpose to hurt your dog with a prong collar.
If it's appropriately sized.
I mean, they look medieval. They're really not. Well, at least the brand we have. But e-collars, you can very much hurt your dog on purpose. Well, not on accident. Not on purpose. On accident, you just push that dial up a little too much.
I mean, and that's why at the end of the day, if you're interested in getting an e-collar, like going through a professional trainer is the best way to go.
Don't just go to, well, you can't go to PetSmart anymore. They don't sell them. But don't go online and buy one. At least watch 2 or 3 different trainers on YouTube at the bare minimum and get some opposing views and perspectives, or actually pay some money and go to a professional trainer. Have them teach you. But first, find out how they use it. Because they may teach you to use it, and a year later, like, I wish I had not done that with my dog.
You should, I'm a firm believer, you should train your dog how to do everything you want them to do with the e-collar before you introduce the e-collar. Yeah,
they should know how to do everything without an e-collar before you layer the e-collar communication on top of it.
Absolutely.
Correct. We're all in agreement there, right? Yep. And that's,
otherwise it's just going to be confused.
That's kind of my beef with most trainers that use e-collars. Not all, but a good chunk of them.
Another thing to add, I mean, I guess kind of a little bit into the weeds, but it's still helpful for owners, is figuring out if people are using what we call either escape or avoidance conditioning for the e-collar. Escape would be more along the lines of what we do, where like if we turn on the e-collar right before they get on the place, and then they get on the place cut, the e-collar turns off, the dog starts to understand. that they're in control of how to turn on and off that pressure, essentially, if you will. Whereas avoidance is like snake proofing. They see a snake, you stem them at like 80 and they're just jumping up from the ground.
And they know to avoid that.
And so it kind of goes along with what we were talking about. Like some trainers really will just go straight for that kind of training. And it's just so sad because you can see that the dog doesn't understand what's going on. They don't even really understand that maybe they're supposed to be getting on place, but they're not. And there's just all this stuff going on. Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably a big reason why, we're qualified to use eCollars, train eCollars, but unless our clients specifically ask us, I want you to teach my dog how to communicate with an eCollar and use an eCollar, we only use eCollars.
Well, even then, like my personal Mr. Pickles, my street dog, my husky pit, we spent about 5-6 months on a slip lead or a prong collar before we ever even thought about the eCollar.
Right. Good.
And then we introduced the eCollar, and maybe a year later, we're down to the tone. We're not even using the stem anymore. So even me as a professional dog trainer, it took a hot minute. Like this is not, you should not be looking for the fast results. You should be looking for the long game to get away from training tools entirely. Just talking to your dog. And maybe it's just your emergency panic button. But other than that, your goal should be get away from all the training tools.
That is the end goal. And that might take all of your dog's life. Every dog's different, right?
Depends on the dog.
Yeah. But it's not the dog's responsibility. It depends on you and as the owner, how much work you also do with your dog.
And I'm a firm believer, probably about 90% of people do not need a collar. You're just going to walk your dog, maybe take it down to a brewery once a month. You don't need an eCollar.
Not typically. Yeah,
no,
it'd be the rare exception.
People, you really don't need that level of training tool, and you won't put the effort in either.
Right.
Like
and one of the drawbacks of the eCollars, if you rarely and infrequently use it, especially the first several months, there's not enough consistency for the dog to actually get all the meaning from the communication. So really, what do you accomplish? Not much.
Yeah.
And your timing still sucks because you don't use it enough. So you're most likely confusing your dog, not helping your dog.
Yeah, because eCollars are kind of backwards what you think you should use them. People just go, in high stress situations when my dog I know is going to act out, I'm going to put the eCollar on and communicate. And I'm like, no, you need to put it on all the time.
Right.
They need to learn consistently, not just in high stress. That's when dogs really dislike the eCollar, is you only put it on when they're going to react to a dog or a human. So it's associated with that. Maybe not negative, but bad experience of, oh my God.
That's the only time they ever get it. It's a bad experience.
With a dog or a human. You need to really associate the eCollar with a fun training tool.
There is.
That's why you need a professional.
There is no way in 1.5 hour or an hour we could cover every aspect.
But
so it's really unfair to even try to have this conversation because it should be a year-long series.
there's a topic I think we should bring up before the end of this episode is where if someone really is interested in getting an eCollar, where should they do that?
Oh, okay.
Because
I think now's a good time to talk about that because we're getting close to the.
Yeah, I mean, I just think a lot of people think they should go on Amazon and just buy something cheap.
God.
And I feel like this is the kind of tool where the more expensive it is, the
100%. Yeah,
Like,
if you are buying a $100 eCollar, please throw it in the garbage or send it back. You bought crap, and the biggest cost in a good quality eCollar is the transmitter. The better quality the transmitter, the higher the cost. Why that's important, it gives you distance and it gives you timing. So when you push the button, something's happening on the receiver, the dog side, instantaneously. The cheaper the eCollar, the delay is there, and now it could be sporadic. Sometimes it's right away. Sometimes there's a little delay. That causes confusion to your dog. So yeah, if you're going to actually use an eCollar, do not even think about getting one.
Well, the other ones too is your cheap ones are going to have less settings.
Yes.
They're going to be hard.
And now they're typically, like you said, usually harsher. Someone brought a Garmin in one time, and on a low setting, it freaking hurt. It felt like someone stuck a needle in the palm of my hand because I test anything we put on a dog, we would test ourselves. And someone brought their dog in with one, and I'd never seen a Garmin. My God, that thing hurt. And it only had, I don't know, 5 or 7 levels.
Yeah.
So right off the rip, it was too high.
It's the problem with not the problem. It's the problem with cheap eCollars. Most eCollars have the same level of power. It just matters how finely,
because of the battery. Yeah.
Because of the battery. How finely we chop in that into different sets.
Yeah, how many segments can you bring that power in? Yeah, so a more expensive collar is going to have 80 to 120 levels. It didn't mean that highest level went that much higher than any other eCollar. No, it just meant you could microscopically adjust it virtually, where a cheaper collar got 6, 7 settings. It probably can go as high as the others, but that's level 7. The other eCollar is level 120 before you got there. That's a big differentiator. And a good quality eCollar is going to give you the option of tone and vibrate as well. You should be able to move between the 3: sensation, tone, and vibrate. Some you pick one or the other, or 2 out of 3, but not all 3.
Or you got to play with the collar or play with the remote to go up more numbers.
Yeah.
Because some dogs are like, one of my dogs is a very soft dog. She's like a 5 out of 100.
Right.
My other
Very
one,
sensitive.
he's like a 25 out of 100.
Yeah, every dog's different too. So if you are looking at getting an e-collar and you have 2 dogs, they're both going to be, which is really why, Julie, you said get a professional trainer, because you don't just set it, oh, George is 20, so Lincoln must be 20. No, Dolly's a 2. I can't even feel 2 on my tongue.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
like
how low 2 is. It's like, what is that?
When Dolly is trying to chase that lure track, Dolly is not a 2.
Right.
At all.
When she's in total prey drive. But no, yeah.
That's why you want to be able to.
You got to know your dog. You got to know what level of state of arousal they're in different scenarios. And that's why I tell people your e-collar dial has a dial, because your dog's energy is going to depend on what they feel.
But you also don't want to be playing with your stupid remote, trying to get to the next stage while your dog is chasing a squirrel a mile away.
Right.
And you're trying to get to setting level 3 and you're still on 1 because that's where your dog normally is.
So a good quality e-collar, probably the cheapest one you're going to find out there is probably 160. Well, now with the inflation, probably 180 would be on the cheap side. So 180 to 250. That's pretty solid. There's some, they're $300-400. That's beyond what most people would eat, I think, unless you're truly are a hunting dog and you're going to have great distances with mountains and trees in between you. Then you might be at that $400 to $700 range, because you need to make sure that receiver and transmitter are communicating no matter what the terrain is like.
Well, they also got GPS locators.
Yeah,
They're
that's cool.
Super cool.
Yeah,
they're a lot. Most
so yeah, you can get up to $800 and some bucks on a high, super over the top quality. But your average, great, good, solid, dependable e-collar, $180, $250.
I think. Can we talk about brands?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the brands that I would stick to would be either eCollar Technologies or Doctra.
Or Dogtra. Yep, those are my favorite too as well. If we are going to teach a dog to communicate with an e-collar, we use eCollar Technologies. But Dogtra is every bit as good as eCollar Technologies. They're just a little more expensive, and I guess that's kind of why we don't. They're about $20-30 more. They have a little bit extra bell, or whistle, I can't remember.
They got more range,
the eCollar Technologies, the one that we used to use, actually has more than the Doctra
standard
that I
Dogtra.
have.
Okay.
Yeah.
And eCollar Technologies has several, so does Dogtra. They have a lower, a more consumer level, I guess, and a more pro level.
I just thought
I don't like Sport Dog.
I do not.
No, it's a quality e-collar, so I'll give them that. It's all 3 of these are meant to go in the water. They're not, they're waterproof. Dogtra makes a great Sport Dog, makes a great sport e-collar. The reason I personally don't like Sport Dog, its sensation is sharper.
But I mean, when you think about it, that could have been on purpose, because it was made for hunting dogs, and I'm assuming that they wanted to make sure the dog felt it.
And it could be
running after a bird or something.
Well, my problem with them mostly is you've got to touch the collar.
I know
it should be on your dog to go from.
That's my biggest beef with Sport Dog. So Sport Dog has 21 levels. eCollar Technologies has 100, and I think Dogtra has 120. So Sport Dog only has 21. That means every notch would be equal to
like 10 notches.
Not 10, roughly 10 notches or 5 notches actually for the others. So that's a kind of a significant jump for Dolly. That would be an overwhelming jump.
Abby,
Oh, yeah.
Abby, that would be an overwhelming
come off the
jump.
ground.
Yeah.
She
So
wouldn't
that's
feel it,
too big
wouldn't
of a
feel
jump.
it, and it would hurt her.
But and then, like you said, why the other reason I really do not like Sport Dog is the dial has 7 levels. Now, if you want to go from level 13 to 14, I have to now
Take it off.
take it off my dog, push a button, hold the button down, go to cycle 2 or whatever it's called, put it back on my dog. Now I've got 7 more
I
levels to
wonder if
work
they
with.
changed that now.
But I can't go below those levels.
Right.
So it's just it's too
It's
hard.
inconvenient. for
It's
sure.
very inconvenient for you and your dog.
Mhm.
You're either, I always found if you use a Sport Dog, you're either way too high on the dial for your dog or potentially way too low.
Yeah.
Very few times are you probably in the Goldilocks zone.
Yeah.
Because there's only 7 numbers you can be in the Goldilocks zone. Now you're either 7 too high or 7 too low.
Yep.
And those 7 are equal to 35 on the eCollar technology.
They also don't have like a boost setting.
Right.
The one we have you can preset. You push 2 buttons and it jumps up X numbers.
Right.
And it's different with every dog. But the problem with the Sport Dog is you're just playing.
You don't
with
have that
7.
ability. You constantly have to
Right.
work
You're
the
stuck
dial.
in your
and
little area.
it's just really inconvenient. High quality eCollar, just very, I don't like the way it was designed.
Now
Especially for like regular dogs, not maybe for hunting dogs it works really well. I've just
Yeah.
never used one as for hunting. So
Right,
maybe,
right.
I don't know.
I was gonna just add that the feature I like the most for the Doctra is the vibrate. It's
Yeah.
actually a lot stronger than the eCollar
eCollar
technologies.
Yeah.
And Tom Davis is why he ended up doing stuff with them, because he uses that primarily for reactive dogs before going into anything else.
Right.
And it's just the best interrupter that you can use to get a dog to go, "Whoa,
Usually,
what was that?"
yeah. Yeah, that one does have a more intense vibration setting. But eCollar technologies, depending on which collar you get, you can modify, I think it's low, medium, and high. Now you have to, read the manual and program it to do that, but there's 3 different levels of vibration on theirs. Are there any other good collars that you'd recommend? I know there's one and I can't think of it off
there's
the top of my head.
Garmin.
No,
That's pretty fancy. I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah, those are
That's
the only ones I know.
main brand.
I'm not a fan of Garmin.
I'm not a fan of Garmin, but I know that they're up there.
Yeah.
Like they're considered to be up
They're
there with those
brand
brands. Yeah.
I know anything that's $100 or less, avoid it like the plague.
It's bad.
And a great eCollar will have a minimum 1 year bumper to bumper, no questions asked warranty.
Yeah.
Because if you're actually using that thing, you're going to beat it up.
Yeah, I know eCollar technology says it's phenomenal, virtually no questions asked warranty. I don't know about the others because I've never really used them. Sport Dog does have a good warranty, but I've never owned or used really Dogtra, so I couldn't speak about that. I think that's about it for, the main thing, if you're looking at using an eCollar, why? Ask yourself that, and then go get training. At least, watch the heck out of a lot of good trainers on YouTube, not just one, because there's different ways to use it, and make sure you're comfortable with how it's being used.
And also don't think the eCollar magically teaches your dog how to do anything.
No, you still have to teach your dog everything you want to teach your dog.
How to do everything first.
Your dog's not going to magically be able to heal.
Yeah. Your eCollar does not train your dog. You train your dog, and then you layer the communication of the eCollar on top of the training that you already established. 100%. All right. Well, if you are one of those people that have been wondering about eCollar, shock collars, electronic collars, whatever you want to call them, hopefully this was educational and helpful. And again, if you are looking for or needing help with your pup, we'd love to be a part of your guys' training journey together. Reach out to us at k-9culture.com. and hit the contact us. Tell us what's going on, what you're trying to achieve, and we'll get back to you and we'll see if we can help you. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. K9 Culture Dog Training DFW is our handles on those. And next week we are going to be talking about
Dun dun dun.
Dog food.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really? I can't count how many times people at group class
So many
will
times.
ask me, is my dog food good? Is this good? Is that
Buddy
good?
should be a speaker.
Yeah, so
Lord.
we're gonna be talking about dog food, and you know it really is important. You know, what you should be looking for, and what are things you should avoid. You know, some of the
says
brands that you
everything.
thought were over the top. Oh my God, I'm feeding my dog the best. Oh, you'll realize maybe you were feeding them crap. You just bought into some
Or
really
it's too
fabulous
rich, or,
marketing
Just
programs.
because it's expensive
Yeah.
does not mean it's
Yeah,
good.
cost does not dictate quality
It's
with dog food.
confusing.
You know, yeah,
food.
dog food is very, very confusing. So we're going to dig into that. I think everybody could benefit from learning how to feed your dog appropriately and picking a good quality dog food for your dog. That does not mean there's only one good dog food, but we do want to talk about the things that, you know, you
Yeah.
should look for when evaluating, picking, selecting a quality dog food for your dog based on their level of activity, their age, and any allergy issues and stuff like that as well. So until next week,
Go have fun with your dog.